Doing. So we're
Hey,
going to have
you
these
found
cool.
it.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we have three fives on this call, myself included. So
Uh,
I feel really supported in going with that
understood.
whole process.
Understand
Um,
fully.
yeah, thank you. Love you girls so much. Yeah, so it is the kickoff call, and I'm really excited about this because as I've been digesting my intentions around this whole space, and I'll throw this out there for you girls, what you feel like would be really cool as well. But I have sort of an intention to have two calls a month, one teaching call, and then I would really love to offer inquiry in a group setting. And I know, I guess I was speaking to that in terms of this being a place that sort of requires a bit of courage. But hopefully, as we have these calls more regularly, there will be more of a sense of being able to really open the heart because there is a lot of healing that happens just from being able to observe somebody else go into those vulnerable places. So
Mhm.
I would
Yep.
love to have an inquiry call with you ladies later on. And this, what that would look like would be um, I will take one person, maybe if we have time to, but often it needs, a good solid 40 plus minutes. So I'd love to take one of you ladies through inquiry on a topic. Um, I have in my head to maybe offer that to you, Ellen, but we can see how that feels. Three of us here are emotional, so we can. I'm really curious about drawing that inner authority into the process as well. So we'll just throw that out there for now. And so today is a little bit more of a teaching call, and I really want to go through some of the focus of this because with my son in gate 9, it's really about focusing on what is important to focus on. And I think this is where a lot of my work has revolved around embodiment stuff because we can get very tangled with a lot of mental awareness. Now, how do we get the how do we get the two to meet? We use a lot of inquiry for that, but there is using the awareness of the mind to then allow the body to come online. So, what I'd really like to do to maybe get us started, I know some of us can't maybe jump around, but try further down from the head into the body. Now, if you have the space to maybe shake your arms out or, do a dance, I don't know if that feels good, but like moving a little bit of energy into the body. Um, I can't really stand and dance. Taking some deep breaths, seeing what there is in there, maybe even just flicking the fingers. And slowly coming back into more of a settled state and just taking a couple of really deep breaths, seeing if you can draw the breath down into the belly, into the pelvis even better. If imagination is fun for you, maybe taking your mind on a little walk down, down through the throat, down through the heart, bringing the awareness within us down to the pelvic bowl and allowing that awareness to expand as we inhale and soften as we exhale. Maybe if you're sitting, just feeling the seat underneath, maybe sinking a little deeper into that seat. Maybe there's feelings that come up. Maybe this is uncomfortable to be in stillness in the body. There's lots of reasons for that, and we'll dig into a lot more of that as we go on. Part of the inquiry process itself is being able to be with those feelings. Sometimes it can feel unsafe to be in the body. Maybe tiredness feels unsafe. Maybe there's a sense of anxiety that comes up in the stillness. Just knowing that right now the body is okay, body is safe. Taking a last deep breath and a really big exhale. When you're ready, I'd like you to begin to open your eyes, and we're going to do a visual awareness somatic practice that I find really interesting. If you look in nature, animals have a really broad awareness of where they are in space and time. There's an awareness of the tree in front out the window, there's an awareness of the walls around. And when we get into more constrictive focus, a lot of our time is spent focusing on the task at hand or focusing on the screen in front of us, or very pointedly focus. And especially for a woman, we we are not necessarily designed to have such a direct intentional focus all of the time. So how do we do this? I'd like you to be aware of what's behind you. Maybe there's a wall, and just sort of become aware of, okay, that's the spatial awareness of how far the wall is from me. Then to the left, becoming aware, moving the eyes, just noticing, seeing all of the things to the left, and slowly working your way around the room, looking in front, noticing where your body is in space in relation to what's around you. Taking the eyes to the right, all the way back. Coming back to center and noticing the ceiling maybe above, the floor below. Really getting a sense of, I'm here in space. My body is here. I'm existing in this world. Noticing perhaps there's a softening, perhaps it just feels weird. But hopefully there's a little bit more of a sense of, I'm here now. I've landed. And feeling a little bit more embodied, so that we can unpack the portal. The portal of the 999. Now, I'm really not a numerologist, expert or fanatic or anything, but I find the patterns and numbers really interesting. And I also find this process of letting go and having patterns come up that are repeating. So, if you've probably all heard me talking about the 9 and letting go, but this year itself is a really big year for that. And I'm sure that, I mean, the fact that all three of you are here with me is a piece of a testament to that moving in your life, I believe, because there's obviously patterns that have come to the forefront, and we go through our own process of coming into that awareness of these patterns. But a lot of the time, it can be really uncomfortable because change isn't necessarily something that a lot of us have felt safe around, especially change in really big areas or really deep areas. But when we're talking about shifting states, we're all here looking at, there is something that I want, there is something that I'd like to move from here to there in, and the process of, you know, alchemy, I like to call it alchemy. You're really allowing yourself to become the person that then exists here rather than the person that exists here. And in that process is releasing things. So I'd like, if you guys, if you girlies want to unmute yourselves, I'd love to just hear some of the things that, and a little bit clearer. So we've talked about some broad topics, but this last week has been a week 9 in a month 9 in a year 9, and I'm expecting some really big things. I can start this off if you like. Like, I've had my Piscean eclipse was in my house of friendship, and I had an experience where I've had a lot of friendship themes of bitterness come up to me with really good friends. And Mum, you'll know this with my friend Ellen, who I've known since I was 12, and we have a really good friendship. I'm definitely invited there. I've got my self recognition there in this space, and I also felt there was places where I wasn't being seen, and I was sort of almost feeling resentful for my participation and all of these things. And I was brought to a space where that stuff came up, and that stuff was able to be processed in a completely different way using things like inquiry, so that I could then open my heart to the truth, the actual truth, because a lot of the time we're blaming, we're trying to do this extraction process, which we'll get into. And through that process, my capacity has shifted to be able to be more authentic within friendships. And that's something all of us have, wounds with women. We've had experiences maybe of being human, and this can be something that we carry and allow to live out in our lives. So this has been a really big shift in the way that I experience belonging and closeness, which we can talk about in the Germany medicine lens. But this has been a really big theme that has been showing up, both friendship and then relational stuff for me, in terms of these are ways of relating and being in connection with people that don't serve you anymore. So let's alchemize and shift these. And I'd love to hear from all of you. Don't know if you want to start us off, Mel?
Oh, yeah.
Put you on the
Yeah,
spot.
you have. Yes, yes. The thing is that just with, I can't speak specifically to all the nines that you refer to, but I
Mm.
just do know with the inquiry and the healing that comes from that, and in relationships, it's first of all recognizing that there is a problem and then it can be fixed, and the inquiry as a method is
Mm.
just incredible. It's, as you know, it's helped me through, and I'm an old lady, it's helped me through things that have been a bother all my life. It's been
Yeah.
very, very liberating. Um, and I'm grateful for that. But like I
Mm.
say, I don't know if the nines, I don't know if that, I don't know that how that applies to.
Well, let me ask a different question. Has there been uncomfortable things happening in the last week? That's maybe a more useful question. Like, I think you've
Oh,
maybe been a little bit overworked.
oh yes, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, I
Mm.
have. Yes, I have been overworked. And also, like I messaged you earlier on, I'm bothered with all, the lack of my ability to actually connect, deep connection.
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
really good with surface friendships, but the
Yeah.
deep
Can
stuff,
you?
I'm happy with that, because I think, and it's just obviously um, how I grew up, but
Yeah.
it's something I would like to have work on.
Definitely. Are you able to speak a little bit more to that? Like, because from memory, it was around being able to feel and express emotions to people.
Yes,
So
yes, both of those. Yeah,
people can feel drawn to you and feel close to you, but then for you to actually
yeah,
be
to
fully
actually,
present is like,
yeah,
what does that involve? Yeah.
yeah. I tend to close off, and then run because
Mhm.
yeah, and it just bothers me. It's a realization that's come just recently, and
Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing. And that's really big because I know in your life that context of belonging has been pretty big, hasn't it?
Yes, very much so. Yeah, yeah,
I belong. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Very relate to that. What
So
about?
my Zoom went off for a minute, so I had to rejoin.
Okay.
Um, I don't know if it's just my phone. It might be just my phone, eh?
Yeah, it looks like it's connected.
Are you still there?
Yeah, yeah, we can hear.
Okay. Yeah. So I don't know with getting to be able to connect with people, whether an inquiry is the way to go. I don't, you're the one that's done all the
Yeah,
research and the reading.
yeah, definitely. When I hear you talking about that, I hear there is something that there's a the body doesn't feel safe to unfold in front of somebody, like for you to just be like, I feel upset and I can actually tell you I'm upset. That doesn't feel safe.
No, definitely not. Yeah.
Yeah, so that they'll be, because I mean, does it mean that you're going to get your head chopped off? Not really, but there's been a part of you that's believed that, um, probably from a very young age, which that's where we would, if you, yeah, that would actually be a really cool one to take through inquiry, because I think that's a very
Yeah,
common, it's a very common context to feel like it's not actually safe to express myself properly. And then what happens when we believe that is that we self-censor so that no one actually knows us
yeah,
very well, so then we don't
yeah,
have a connection, so it's this almost
yeah.
self-fulfilling prophecy. So yeah, definitely we can, that'd be a cool one to take through.
Because I just to add to that, it's just that it's the I know you go back to the unsafe, but for me, no one cared, you know. So
Mm.
why would I tell anybody if no one cares, you know? And so it's a response that obviously as a young child you get from a
Mm.
busy parent or whatever. It might not have been intentional, you know. But it's
Yeah,
not
definitely.
like I know you say unsafe, but it's maybe the terminology, but it's no one cared.
Well, I no, yeah, I guess I'm speaking to the body's animal reaction, because
Ah,
if,
right. Okay. Yep. Yep.
yeah, so as a small kid, what would happen if you weren't cared about? You'd die, you know.
Yeah.
You
Yes. Okay. That takes it
wouldn't
through. Yeah.
survive.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's often why sometimes we can mentally understand these processes, but we still can't live them out, because the
Yeah.
body is stuck in this, very physical, very primal, small child's way of understanding life. So we can think out, like, you've had experiences where you've thought and planned what you're going to say, but even that is too hard, because the body's going, I'm going to die. The
Yeah.
physical body is believing that, but your mind is aware of something different, if that makes sense.
Yes. Yes.
So
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
Absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. What about you, ladies? Ellen, did you want to go any deeper into some of?
Yeah. I think what I've noticed this week, I have felt maybe a bit of emphasis on releasing what feels like kind of patterns I want to be letting go of in my work,
Mm,
continuing to work kind of like shift work as a nurse right now as my
mm,
primary income. And on Friday, it was like a really, really busy day for everyone at the clinic. And at the end of the day, it's interesting because now that I have the awareness of the inquiry like work, I can
mm.
just see all of these contexts playing out between employees that's creating
Yeah.
maybe what would be called like a workplace, conflict. And I can see it really objectively. And I think I'm in this place of kind of discerning and digesting if I have any part to play in supporting the resolution for the team while also simultaneously kind of feeling like, yeah, this desire to kind of move away from this type of work for myself and like a detachment from wanting to engage in work in this way. And
Mm,
then also, yeah, I have this desire. So Pisces is my fourth house, which is family and home and roots.
mm,
And I often have this desire to create resolution and better relationships with my family. Um, and in the past, when I have approached that, I felt really disappointed and a lot of grief coming up because
mm,
I've gone to visit my family and just felt like no recognition. Um, and like there's just so much pain that is in the dynamics of everyone in my family that it can be challenging to engage and like meet each other in the heart. And so, yeah, I've been sitting with what resolution looks like, if it's more of an internal experience for me with my family,
mhm,
or if it's something that could be explored in relationship with them.
mhm.
Also being, having a huge family, one of seven, plus my
Yeah.
parents, it's like sometimes it feels overwhelming to even think about like what resolution could look like with that many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think just a deepening desire to connect with my fractal family and really be in a space of living in community.
Hmm.
Yeah, those are some themes that feel alive for me right now.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, especially speaking to your family things. When you can work through inquiry, the real test of have you dissolved identity or not is, can you be in the exact same situation and have no trigger? And it's really easy to test that with family. There's a lot of evidence that we collect, because when we have these identities that come online, we're constantly looking for the evidence that it's true. If that's I'm not really, I'm unseen, I don't matter, if there's things like that, then you have a lifetime of growing up in a family with all of this evidence to prove it to yourself. So it can be one of the most challenging, but also one of the most profound ways to work with these contexts, because when you can see that shift, and you can be fully expressed in situations that you maybe had a different reaction to, I feel like that's where the fullness of you starts to really come online. And family is so useful for that, to have these contexts brought to the forefront, because you can't really be exposed to family without having some of them poked. So yeah, that's a really cool thing to be unfolding. And the work
Yeah.
stuff, I feel like, yeah, both of those are such big, I want to say existential. Our bodies feel them as the life and death type of feelings. So there's a lot of conscious awareness around things, but if you're actually looking to the deep nervousness that can come with various questions around how to be supported by life, it's like it brings up, well, what do I believe? Am I supported in life? Is that support based on certain conditions and people's reactions and situations? Yeah, very, very interesting stuff to look into.
Mhm.
This is good.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for reflecting that back. And I do feel I do feel curious as I dive deeper into inquiry what both of these realms of life what will unfold in both of them, because I sense that shifts and changes will happen within me, which would then
Mm,
reflect outwardly in my life. And
yeah.
yeah, so I feel
Yeah.
excited about it too.
Yeah, totally. It's so interesting watching inquiry unfold in somebody's life, because it is a process, and it also is it's very paradoxical, because we have there's no if it's like, if you're going to a family situation to have a conversation and you have an intention of an outcome, there's going to be closeness, or there's going to be resolution. They're going to feel differently towards me by me saying this. um, it's an incomplete way to look at inquiry. However, that is the unfolding process of inquiry, because when you start to understand that your sense of safety or your sense of worth and value it's no longer velcroed onto these outside things, all of a sudden your sense of belonging and value and all of that, the inner realization that that's always been there, begins to be reflected back. So it's it's a really interesting paradox to watch unfold, especially in such big places in your life, because often you get exactly what you were trying to get by realizing you didn't need to get it. It sounds like a total word worm, but yeah, it's it's really interesting matrix bending.
Mhm.
Mm,
Yeah, thank you for giving me the space to share.
so welcome. How about you, Lorraine? Do you have space to speak a little bit of your power to us?
Yeah, call it power. Um, but yeah, I'll be kind of in and out. I've got the little one here. Just what you're talking about there, I think what's triggering me most, which I guess is all inquiry, it's stuff with the children, you know, like they trigger so much, and like you have to, like I've had to look at every single thing, like why is that triggering me, or it's a lot. Like you could probably do inquiry on every single time. So I've just been kind of looking at it all myself. That's what this month has been. And I too I feel like change is coming. Like I feel like it's close. I don't quite know what will happen. And I'm kind of trying to just trust, but it, same as what Ellen said earlier, it feels like it is. I'm kind of, I don't know, is it a good idea though, that I'm kind of like waiting, like, oh, I wonder, will tomorrow, what's going to happen tomorrow? Kind of like impatiently waiting for like this amazing thing to happen. But you know, probably should more like lean into the small things that could change. Yeah, I also feel like change is coming. Don't know what, but it's coming.
You can smell it in the air.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is you're bringing to mind something that I think is also really on my heart, is this process of when we, because Germany medicine has this idea of quintessence, right? There is a divine timing to things. And I'm the type of person who is like, oh, I find this modality, I'm going to poke myself in the eye with it because I want to force healing. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And that is definitely part of my 3-5 process, because I'm trying to figure out exactly how everything works and how it doesn't work, and then where the usefulness is. And I learn a lot in that process. And I feel like there's a part of me that used to maybe be a bit self-deprecating to that process, but I think there is divinity in that as well. And I really love all the things that I've learned. But in saying all of this, there is also, like you spoke to, Lorraine, there is a lot of wisdom in waiting for it to be unveiled a little bit more, because you're getting things brought to you. You're clearly getting things. You're clearly, you know, having things come into your awareness field. And there is, I mean, especially with you've got splenic authority, you have an instinctual nature to really understand the next step in the moment. So that's something that I'm passionate about, is this inner authority process of, we actually have a lot of wisdom even in our tangledness, you know, especially when there's physical symptoms. It can feel really overwhelming to even imagine that it's going to get to a place of freedom. I know I've been there myself, where it's like I just can't imagine being vibrant, you know. But there is the breadcrumb trail that we have within our own lived experience to follow. And I think I'll probably at some point do a bit of we can do that maybe as one of the teachings, but just looking at the inner authority and maybe cleaning the channels a little bit in terms of having that awareness more online, because in my opinion, that help when that is more reconnected and more understood in our conscious world, we can trust a little bit better, you know, because we might not know what tomorrow is going to bring, but we know that we're going to be there. And we know that this inner process of guidance, understanding the place that is most nourishing for us to you know, the direction, because it's really, life is all about decisions. We're either going this way or that way. We're either doing this or that. We're either saying yes or no. We're either connecting with that person or not. It's like a constant flow of decisions. And I think when we get into these tangled places, we're making decisions from contexts. You know, we're living ourselves out from constricted places, usually created when we were very small and very unaware. So having that process come online a little bit more of feeling connected to our own truth. And this is where I believe inquiry is so powerful as well, because it's uncovering that voice. When you have a context come online, you know, maybe in your space, Lorraine, of, well, I'm a bad mom, you know, this and this and this equals clearly I'm bad. I'm doing a terrible job here. There's that voice crowding what you could feel in your body that would be true for a particular instance, you know. And I think really I'm very passionate about developing this trust with your own self, because I'm not going to have all the answers. Nobody's going to have all the answers, but there is creative life force energy, if you want to call it that, living within each of us that knows, if you want to call that God, if you want to call that the universe, whatever it is, it's pretty clear that there is an organization, an organizing life force accessible to us that we can learn to trust. And a lot of us really find that challenging. I know I have in my life, but I believe it's led all of us here, so it's clearly doing something right. So, let me just, I did want to speak a little bit to Incre that we've already spoken to currently, but maybe to leave this call, I think it would be something interesting to have these questions floating around on the back burners. And they can help to clarify the deeper context, because when we're dealing with something that is challenging, we're being faced with a situation that we believe needs to change for us to be okay. Whether that be a connection with family, like you were speaking to Ellen, or mum, being able to actually feel connected to people, or Lorraine feeling a lot around being a mom and kids. And when we have something come online, it's so the psyche is so clever in the sense that it's going to do the most protective thing for us. So it's going to have the reaction happening before we even have logical awareness of it. And this process of starting to ask, what am I trying to extract from this person or this situation? In a job sense, Ellen, extracting safety from a job, I know I've lived that context really thoroughly. Like I'm not going to be safe and I'm not going to survive if I don't have these criteria in my life of stability. I mean, if we look at the world, you can lose your job really quickly. You can have, there are financial things that happen throughout the world that we have no control over. There's all of this. So when we are expecting to extract our safety and our security from places that we can't control, there's a lot of energy involved in that. There's a lot of fear. This sort of begins to bring us into that inquiry process where we can start to understand that it's a logical thing to think at some point in time, but if it's not the full truth and if it's not actually going to allow us to expand into life, then we can start to see that it's not such a useful way to understand the life around us. So these are the questions that I feel like, going through Brandon's work, I've felt like these are some really useful questions to have to start to bring us into that state of understanding our patterns towards something. So what do I have to believe about me to feel that I need to get this thing to be okay? If I have to believe that I'm a good mom to be acceptable, to be belonging, to to not get rejected from the tribe, then I'm going to be very triggered around mothering, because I have to do it right, or I can't let anybody see when I'm doing it wrong. So I'm going to be hiding a lot of my process and myself, and I'm going to want to really control things. So then you can start to see, who does that actually make you into? You become a different sort of person than an open, expressed mom who's there in the moment, who's not trying to prove anything, etc., etc. So I hope, I'd love to hear if there's any thoughts from you ladies on this. We're not gonna.
I love these questions, and I already feel, just like curious to digest them and contemplate them. And I think I feel myself outgrowing some of the contexts that I have around work. I could see in the past how they were so alive, but I I feel more excited to follow my inspiration rather than being in this context of I'm not going to be safe. I'm not going to have what I need. It feels like a lot of safety, like it's going back to the safety of the body. A lot of the context that I've experienced around my work, around having resources for what I need, have felt um, fearful, I think, and almost like contracted. And it does feel, yeah, I just feel curious as my awareness is shifting into like, how can I be of service to the world in a way that's unique to me and that expresses the truth of who I am outside of these contexts of like, will I survive? Will I have what I need? Can I rely on a steady paycheck from someone else, you know? Um, so yeah, that feels really alive for me as I read these.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like I've got so much lived experience in that world, jumping into the deep end of working and doing my own thing, and then having context come of like, well, is what I am valuable enough? And then how do I, what am I velcroing my value? I know one that I worked through was I have to fix my client. I have to create an outcome to have any sense of value. And then who did I become when I believed that? Ask my mom. um, she's laughing. Yeah, like trying to control and trying to make somebody, I can see the path and I'm going to try and force you to go on it. And that was a really interesting one to work through in terms of how do I support myself with my value, and do I actually believe that I am value, or do I have to do XYZ? Do I have to, how am I judging whether it's working or not? All of these various things. It's such an interesting conversation.
Yeah, I feel like I can really relate to a lot of that experience as well. And um, yeah, I am grateful for the evolution. And sometimes I wonder too about being a projector and feeling like, oh, the world isn't going to see me, so I have to make things happen for myself, you know? Like
Yeah.
rather than being in this safety and receptivity of like knowing that I am value, you know? And the outcome based
Yeah.
context really also hits home for me in my own experience.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's a projector is such a strange creature because we really only know ourselves through others. Um, and there's so much involved there, because if you're afraid of being seen, like I had a fear of if people really see me but I believe I'm bad, like I'm going to be kicked out of the tribe. So I had a lot of protection around actually showing up online. And then the people who really are there to learn and be in my fractal, how are they ever going to find me if I'm hiding myself? And then to be able to feel that success through another person, yeah, there's a lot to dance around when you are expressing, your uniqueness as a projector in this strange world. It's such a strange world of online stuff where anything is possible, but also like, what even am I? We can have, yeah. But I'm glad you're here with us, Ellen, because I hope it's a place where you feel seen and you feel, that your process is very welcome. Like your 3-5 process of figuring all this stuff out is really welcome in the sisterhood. And yeah, may it be a little bit of compost for you to that process, because it'll be cool to watch you come online.
Yeah, thank you so much. It feels that way already. So I'm so grateful to be here. Thank you for creating the space for all of us to be here.
My pleasure. Yeah, so I don't have much more than this, girlies, but I'm really happy to be on here with you and to share a bit of space. I am going to stop this sharing. I'm happy to post those questions in the chat just as like fun little prompts for us to play around with. And then let's just, we'll stop this